Some of the content covered may be graphic in nature. Viewer discretion is advised.
Witchcraft.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely it's really just
I love stories like this because it's
you can just someone scared to death.
Yeah,
that's a real thing.
There are countless stories bad enough people that you shouldn't fuck with.
Right, and the JFK assassination all
Too real.
From the mistake on the lake deep within the great American Rust Belt, I bid you all good morning, good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be, across the nation, around the world. This is Type 3 TV. I'm your host, John Budzinski, alongside Daniel, Stephen Rady.
What is up?
Not much. And Steve Buddha Gibson.
What's up?
All right. Gentlemen, how was your week?
Uneventful as usual, actually.
Yeah? Nothing eventful this week for you?
Not really. The weather's been crappy, so
Yeah.
really haven't been doing too much. It's a little bit nicer today, but yesterday was like, 42 degrees outside?
Yeah. Like I said, I draw the... I once had a benchmark of May 10th, and then it snowed on May 10th, so I moved it to May 12th. And now I'm just going to kick it to Buddha's birthday. So if we can get through this weekend, or next weekend, then I will say that we're pretty much past the shitty weather.
Right.
So yeah, nothing too eventful over here. Same old shit, different pile. Buddha, how about you?
Just keeping on, as they say.
Yeah, it's still pretty slammed with the I don't want to say handyman, because that does not. What would you, if you were to put like your role of what you do, would you just say general contractor?
Well, I would be a carpenter by trade.
Okay.
But I know you want to put me up there with Jesus, but I don't really think he was a carpenter.
All right.
Wow.
No.
What?
No, I mean, if I get hired out, I'm a carpenter. So I guess that's what my insurance is. My insurance is that I'm a carpenter.
Nice.
But I mean, we do general, not genital, but general remodeling.
Well,
I'm sure you do that too.
Yeah.
Under the knife.
Yeah.
So.
No, yeah, we're fucking slammed. It's. Yeah. I got a bunch of my stuff I got to get to next week, and then we're just like go, because everything is now being caught up from like a bunch of just waiting around for materials, and now like everything is coming in, so everybody wants stuff done yesterday.
Right. Well,
so
I'm surprised, and I'm not. Don't take this the wrong way, but with the way inflation is going, like, I'm surprised that like the world, and I guess even in my trade, and I don't know, Dan, yours isn't really necessarily. It's a service-based trade, but like, there's no goods produced, I guess, for lack of a better words, but like, where there's goods or services rendered, like, I don't feel like the squeeze has really hit yet. Like, everyone just is like kind of weathering the storm, it feels like, which is a good thing, but it's also driving cost way up. And so I don't, it still feels net neutral. I'm wondering how next, like November or this coming November, how we're going to feel, at least financially, because of all this, because we'll probably have been into it almost a year. Like, are people going to be pulling back on spending money on getting their house fixed or things printed, or even just vacations and goods? Like, I wonder what even the next holiday season is going to look like too. But just crazy.
hot dogs will be like $7.99.
What about Hebrew Nationals at that point? Because those are the only kind I buy.
Not touching that one.
No, I mean, they're more expensive, so
No, it was a joke.
But
I think there's two schools of thought. Is kind of one of it. One is spend it before shit becomes even more devalued, or sit back and hope everything crumbles and get it cheaper.
Right.
Which I would be more
It was crazy. Like, I
Yeah.
watched. I got an invoice or a copy of a statement from a 401k I had, and I called about it last week, and I was shocked with how much it's dropped in just 4 months. So I don't know, but all right.
Hold up. Do you mean you have someone handling the investments for you? You're saying?
Yeah, I mean, it was a company that basically manages it. I guess I don't know. If I have a question, I'm supposed to call them. So I've considered taking it all out of the market, just because it's not a whole lot of money. Trust me, I'm going to be working till the day I fucking die. So
You will eat bugs and you'll
Shannon
like
didn't
it.
marry me for the money. I'll tell you that much. All right. We got a couple news stories I want to do real quick, and then right around 8:15, Lawrence of The Simpsons is going to be joining us, and we're going to be talking about his knowledge of the JFK stuff, and also I want to touch maybe hopefully on 9/11 a little bit, and we're going to kind of wing it and see what happens. So real quick, a couple of news stories here. This one's from ScienceAlert.com. The moon may have been covertly siphoning Earth's water for billions of years. It says here, there are water molecules and ice up on the moon, so how did they get there? Asteroid-comet collisions are likely to have produced some of it, but a New Age study suggests the source of lunar water, the Earth's atmosphere. It says here, hydrogen and oxygen ions escaping from our planet's upper atmosphere, and the combining on the moon could have created as much as 3,500 cubic kilometers of surface permafrost or subsurface liquid water, scientists say. The thinking that is hydrogen and oxygen ions are driven into the lunar surface as the moon passes through the tail of the Earth's magnetosphere, the teardrop-shaped bubble around the Earth affected by its magnetic field that occurs every 5 days in lunar. This occurs every 5 days in every lunar month. Because of the sun's solar wind pushing back against this bubble, some of the Earth's magnetic field lines are broken, only tethered to the planet at one end. When the moon interferes with the tail of Earth's magnetosphere, some of these broken connections get fixed, which leads to hydrogen and oxygen ions that had previously escaped Earth's atmosphere suddenly rushing back towards it. It's like the moon is in the shower, a shower of water ions coming back to Earth, falling on the moon's surface. So that's kind of crazy to think that maybe, some of this water that's on the moon is really just caused by a natural occurrence. I mean, I know that is why, but I know that there's no other way of saying water got to the moon other than a natural occurrence, but to figure out how and why, I thought it's pretty interesting. So,
Is it possible for water molecules to travel through space?
well, I would imagine so. I mean, when they, we've seen movies where they're spraying waste out of the spacecraft, and it's just bubbles.
No, I don't mean like that. I mean, like, can they go from, like, is it possible for it to go from like the moon to Earth without any type of like intervention?
I mean, at this point, I guess not, and that's on such a tiny level, like, but yeah, you make a good point. Like, if something splashed into Earth and water was able to actually leave the atmosphere, where would it go? I don't know. It's a good thought.
Totally off topic, but you know what is one of the funniest fucking shit to watch is those idiots that run with the bulls and then just get fucking plowed. Like, I don't know why that randomly popped into my head. I watched a video earlier, and that's like some of the funniest shit I've ever seen.
Let's see here. Okay, here's another story here, and this one's kind of freaky. It says Samsung's new dashcam memory card records nonstop for up to 16 years. It says longevity reigns supreme when you're shopping for a fashion or a dashcam memory card, and Samsung thinks it might have the longest lasting card. The brand has introduced a next generation Pro Endurance micro SD card with up to 16 years of continuous recording for the 256 gigabyte version. 16 friggin' years. Like, that's a long time. And again, we're getting into this area where, like, there's never going to be a part of your life that is not recorded somewhere. And I think that is really freaky.
It's kind of already there.
I mean, I guess, like, the only place...
Unless you don't use technology.
Right. But even
you're being recorded without your own doing at that point. I mean, satellites do it all the time. How many?
Right.
You walk around and you see cameras on light posts. You see red light cameras, speed cameras. Like, it's fucking everywhere.
Yeah, and it's, where can you go where you're not being recorded? Like, maybe certain rooms of your house you don't have cameras, but then again, if you're using your phone, there's some sort of activity still being tracked. It's just insane to think that everything has a trace somewhere now, no matter what it is. I don't know. It's kind of like I said, it's kind of gross, freaky in this way. But one memory card, 16 years up to for a dash cam. Just picture Dan's, pre working from home. Probably just a lot of early or late 90s rock.
Pretty much, yeah. Mid. I'd just say actually, not even late 90s, early 90s, more or less.
Are you giving people the finger while you're driving?
No, not unless one of my biggest road rage problems is when somebody is riding my ass. I mean, nothing absolutely angers me. I mean, if someone cuts in front of me or, someone doesn't use a turn signal, that kind of pisses you off. But when someone's riding my ass, I literally go into lunatic mode. I have to really calm myself down because I don't brake check them because I don't want them to slam in the back. I thought about doing that, just letting them, slam in the back of my car. But I don't do that because I don't want to ruin my car. But what I really do is just to piss them off, I just basically recline back in the seat so that they can see me. And look, because I'm not talking about when you're in the fast lane and you're going slow. I mean, when you're actually in a slow lane or you're going the speed limit and someone's riding your ass, I just recline the seat and basically make it look like I'm just relaxing, just to piss them off. So
yeah, I typically will wave and smile at people like, "Oh, hi." So, all right, 2 more stories here, and then we'll get into Larry. Let's see here. I'm gonna do this one actually first. Okay. Pig used in human heart transplant had virus. Patient looked infected. This one's from Newsweek.com. The pig that was used in the first human heart transplant was infected with a porcine virus that may have contributed to the death of the patient, experts have said, with the surgeon that treated him saying that David Bennett Sr. looked infected. So, wait a minute. He did die on March 8th. I didn't realize that. We reported on this surgery, too. Huh. Bennett received a pig heart in a groundbreaking surgery that took place in Maryland in January. The 57-year-old had been suffering from terminal heart disease, and the operation was a last-ditch attempt at saving his life. Bennett died on March 8th, 2 months after the surgery, University of Maryland Medical Center, UMMC, confirmed in the statement. Mohammed M. Mahudin, professor of surgery and scientific director of the cardiac xenotransplantation program, say that 5 times fast, program at UMSOM, said Bennett's surgery had provided, quote, invaluable insights in how genetically modified pig heart functions in the human body. We remain optimistic and plan to continue our work in future clinical trials. He said this in the statement. At the time, the hospital spokesperson said there was, quote, no obvious cause for his death. Well, I mean, the guy had a different type of heart in his body. I don't know if that was one thing.
Might have had something to do with it.
So, I'm waiting for Buddha to call him up.
Waiting for me to what?
Well, just Buddha's nickname for everybody. When I call Buddha or he calls me, I always pick up and he goes, "Sup, pig." And so
I didn't even think of that. I didn't put those two together.
And I'm thinking, like, all right, here it comes.
Or what about Dan? Check it out, you fucking pig.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
man.
What a story.
That's a classic.
Story. Oh, man. All right. Last story, and this one's more for me, but any of you know me, huge Back to the Future fan, and everyone's been blowing me up today about looks like at the end of the month in May, DeLorean's going to release some new pictures of their new car, the DeLorean EV, or the EV DeLorean. And so let's see here.
I thought they showed a few photos of that already.
Yeah, but they're actually
teaser.
Go more, yeah. It says the tweet included sign up for exclusive access to the reveal of the all-new DeLorean. The DeLorean, which started off getting a buzz after a 15-second spot during the Super Bowl this year, expected to offer at least 300 miles of driving range. The median driving range of all electric vehicles in the model of 2021 was 234 miles, according to the Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. The Texas-based DeLorean Motor Company said that last month the concept car is scheduled to premiere on August 18th at the Pebble Beach Concours d'Elegance, adding that excitement is rising like the doors of our iconic sports car. So, I don't know. I mean, I think it's kind of cool, but at the same time, like, I don't know, maybe just leave it alone. But then again, it's a business. They want to make money. So,
What the price tag's going to be on that car?
Most things that get resurrected are fucking shit anyway.
yeah, I know. I kind of want them to leave it alone. I'm wondering what the value is going to be like if they, like, I'm sure the car is going to be well over $100,000. It's a concept car that's going to be pretty much more of just a vanity car. And I just don't see, I mean, there's no need for it. But then again, we'll see. All right.
But it's going to be on sale to the public, right?
I mean, yeah, you could. It's probably going to be one of those made-to-order things,
right? Which most everything is now. Yeah,
I'm sure they'll stock some at their site in Texas, but at the end of the day, I don't think that you're not going to be able to go to a dealer and buy one of these things. So
right.
All right, I'm waiting for Larry to pop in here any second now, but yeah. So
yeah, it's just like if I had the money, a couple of weeks back I did that story on that advanced Cadillac from 1958. Right. If I had the money and the new Celestic is what they're called. I'm sorry.
No, I was agreeing.
Yeah, so yeah, the Celestic, when that car comes out, it's going to be a flagship. It's going to be hand built. It's going to cost over $200,000. But if I had the money, I'd go with that classic Caddy any day. I would not buy the new flagship because it's classic.
Yeah, no, and what would how much? What is a Rolls Royce? What you said, $600,000, $500,000?
Yeah, a brand new Rolls Royce. Yep, about $600,000 for the Phantom. Yep.
Yeah, that's still. I mean, even the fifth of that price, it's quite a bit. All right, so let's see here, Larry, are you on the line?
I'm here. You got me?
Yep. Yeah. So, Larry, where exactly are you from, actually, too?
I'm from Yakima, Washington. It's in central Washington.
How far from Seattle?
About 150 miles. I'm in eastern Washington.
Oh, right on. Okay. Yeah, I was in Montana. I'm wondering, how far are you from West Montana?
About 400 miles.
Okay, so maybe a day's worth of driving, would you say?
Yeah. A lady I used to work with moved to Great Falls, and she said she drove it in 8.5 hours.
Okay, right on. Yeah, my father-in-law was stationed out there at Malmstrom Air Force Base. Incident of a famous UFO encounter. So, but okay, so are you originally from the Washington area, or did you move there, or what?
No, I was born here.
Okay, cool. Well, for anyone listening on the replay or live, I guess, and I don't know, maybe you can agree or not agree. Our first video that we had published, this all kind of started. There was an early iteration of Type 3 with a good friend of mine, and we kind of stopped for a little while, and then I was like, well, I still want to do stuff like this, and so Buddha, Dan, and I started getting together and recording videos. And originally we had decided that we would do 3 stories, long form, in a video and release them however often we could. Well, it's a lot of work, and the first one we did one on the Cecil Hotel. I forget which one Buddha's story was on. I think it was about the scientist, wasn't it, Buddha? The guy who invented...
Stanley Meyer, was it that one?
No, he was like more of a European scientist. Something about energy, I know that, and they offed him. And then Dan's story was the JFK limo, and we put the video out in long form with all 3 parts, and then I decided, okay, this is too much fucking work for me. I just, didn't have a whole lot of time, just enough time to do maybe 1 video a week, and so I cut them up and put them out individually. And it was right before Trump released all of these JFK bits, and so and all this information was supposed to get released to the public. So all of a sudden, this video on the JFK car we were the second video that would come up when anyone searched JFK for a brief moment, and the video got almost 500,000 views. And with that, we're like, that's it, we're gonna be famous. And that did not happen. But I would say I initially started answering all of the messages, and I don't know if we got off on the wrong foot at first. And I was trying to be cheeky with a lot of people and just say, like, you know, if somebody said that we were stupid or whatnot, I would throw some, you know, snarky comment back. But after a while, Larry and I kind of like started talking, and it really cool. It was cool to like actually go back and forth with it. Would you agree?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it was fun.
yeah, and it was I know Larry was like correcting some points that, or at least giving from his point of view, some of the stuff that maybe we had missed. And so at first we're kind of like, hey, what's this guy doing? But then it just turned into like good collaborative, you know, talking, and here we are today, like what, a couple years later, and Larry's still our biggest fan, I think our only fan. So thank you, Larry. It's really cool that you're doing this. So
It's like 4 years
Hopefully
later.
I got
It's
you
not a
guys some
couple.
more fans.
what's that?
Hopefully I got you guys some more fans.
Yeah. But yeah, I can't really, it's like going on 5 years this year. So my God, has it been that long? All right. Anyway, so you're from the Washington area, and how did you stumble upon our video?
Oh shoot, I don't really remember.
Just going down the rabbit hole?
Yeah, and well, I think I watched a couple of your other videos and maybe listened to a couple of the live streams, and then you guys put that JFK video out there.
Right on. Yeah. So, I guess my next question is going to kind of lead into, how did you get into all of this stuff? Because Dan has his stories on how he got into the JFK thing. And originally when I was thinking about doing this, I was like, I don't know if I want to do things that have been covered so extensively. And then I immediately ate my words when I saw that we got 500,000 views. And I said, okay, well, let's just do everything that's been covered extensively. But how did you find yourself getting into some of this stuff?
Well, I've always kind of been into it because I've always felt that the government executed him, you know, the CIA.
Sure.
And the more I started reading these books and watching these videos, I found out I was right. He was executed by the CIA.
And Dan, would you say that that's somewhat similar to how you got into it, or?
No, not even close. So when I was younger, I've always been, as you guys know, I've always been a car guy. I always loved cars as a kid and just was fascinated with them. And when I was younger, you know, I saw all the stuff on JFK. I knew he was killed. I didn't know anything about conspiracy theories or any of that stuff. But I was interested in the car more than anything else. Here was a car that the President of the United States was murdered in. You know, it was completely, without me being graphic, I mean, his brains were blown all over the car. It was a mess. And I wondered as a kid even, I said, what did they do with that car? You know? And I remember my dad even telling me, well, they destroyed it. You know, he said, I heard that they destroyed it. And then I went with that. I thought that sounds about right, even as a kid. I'm sure they weren't going to reuse this car after all that happened. So I got interested in more or less the car portion of it to find out what happened to the car. But then, you know, as I got older, I did start like Larry was saying, I started reading more books. I started getting more involved in reading a lot of this stuff, you know, where a lot of these discrepancies and what the Warren Commission said. And I got into more in-depth details of, and I have a little story a little later on that I want to go over too, something that I've come up with most recently that I think is very interesting, and I think Larry will agree. But that's kind of like where I got to it. And I just wanted to know what happened to the car. And I could not believe that the car was rebuilt. I could not believe that something like, with all the spending and all the money the government has, it wouldn't be that damn hard for the government to take another Lincoln Continental and rebuild it from the ground up. It would not be that hard. And it would lend something credence to the fact that if they did say it was the same car, that would take off from, you know, any kind of conspiracy theories that, well, we're just going to reuse the car. There's nothing to see here. But who knows? I mean, a Lincoln Continental is not a Rolls Royce. They don't hand build 500 of them. There's tens of thousands of Lincoln Continentals made in 1961, which is the year of that car. So that's how I got into it, and I've just always been kind of interested in it, ever since.
Yeah. Do you think, so going back to the car itself, Larry, about the car, do you think that the car was stripped down for nefarious reasons, or do you think that it was, do you think it was found to be more practical to just rebuild the car because theoretically the car was still usable? Or do you think that the reason that it was rebuilt was to cover up something?
Well, see, that one of the things of the JFK mystery is they've made it so complicated. There's people that specialize in every part of it. Like there's a guy named Vince Palomala. He's the Secret Service expert. He explains, what the Secret Service did, how they stood down. There's other people that specialize in the CIA and how they operated. There's Colonel Prouty. He never comes right out and says it, but I think he was CIA. His job title in the Pentagon was Chief of Supply for the clandestine operations of the CIA. So he never comes right out and says it, but I think he was CIA. And he explains how the protection was pulled back. Before that, when Eisenhower went to Mexico City in 1956, Prouty was sent 3 weeks before to check things out. He went with the Secret Service. They checked the route out, they mapped out where the windows was, where snipers could be, and Eisenhower was actually protected. None of that happened in Dallas.
But going back to the car, though, do you think the car was repurposed and rebuilt because it was more practical, or do you think it was done to cover something up?
I think it was done to cover something up, because there was supposed to have been a bullet that hit from behind in the chrome strip. I've seen pictures of the bullet dent in the chrome strip above the windshield. I think, that Vince Palomala, he explains how it was taken from Washington, D.C. to Ford's plant, the Rouge plant, whatever they call it.
Is that where they took it to, Dan, to get rebuilt?
No, they took it back to Hessen-Eisenhardt is where they took it to. That's who built the car in the first place. They customized, they built the limousine, and that's after the FBI did their investigation on it. It went directly back to Hessen-Eisenhardt in Cincinnati, and that's where they start the rebuild process.
I've heard that story too. But this Vince Palomala, he interviewed an old guy that was retired from that Rouge plant. He was the supervisor of the glass shop. And he says when he went in there Monday morning, his shop was locked. And when he knocked on the door, his subordinates opened the door, and that JFK limo was in there, and the window was out of it. And they had used the old window to make a template to make a new windshield for that car.
Have you ever heard that story, Dan?
I have not, actually. No. But that lens, that... Go ahead.
Have you guys ever seen The Men Who Killed Kennedy?
No.
The 9-part series?
I've not.
Hopefully it's still on YouTube. If it's still on YouTube, watch it. It's really good. You can learn a lot from that. But this guy that was the supervisor of the glass shop at the Rouge plant, in his statement that he wrote out to Vince Palomala, he said that windshield had a bullet hole through it from the front to the back.
But what happened to that windshield then after was it just destroyed, smashed? I mean,
yes, according to that guy, it was destroyed.
Yeah. Do you think anything was kept? If it was all destroyed, or if the car was gutted and repurposed, do you think anything was kept?
I don't know about that, but they say that LBJ never rode in that car.
Right. Yeah, he was very uncomfortable in the car. He would not. They had to repaint it. It was initially a very dark, like midnight blue color when JFK had it, and he refused to drive in the car until they painted it completely black. And Larry's right. It got to the point where he just did not want to drive in that car. So, Ford was commissioned to build another limousine, I think around 66 or 67. Yeah. And then he drove mostly in that vehicle. And then really that JFK limo more or less turned into a backup Secret Service car. I mean, Nixon used it a few times. And I think just a couple times he was in it, and it, for the most part, was used as a backup car until it was retired in 1977. Then it went to the Ford Museum.
Yeah. And I saw that this past actually on my birthday. We went to the Ford Museum this past year. But yeah, it is interesting. Like I said, I mean, a lot of things had changed in between that frame off restoration. That, I mean, there was the hard top was put on. Is that welded into the frame, or was that able to be taken off?
It was well. Are you asking me or Larry?
Either of you guys.
You could put it on and off.
The original.
Yeah.
What about the repurposed one?
The repurposed one was, that was built into the car. That was not removable at all. I mean, I don't know exactly what measures they used to do it, but it was bulletproof. Because initially when that car came out, nothing was bulletproof. It had a cloth top that they could put on it. It had a bubble top, which you hear that famous word about the bubble top if Kennedy had it on. But the thing is, that was not bulletproof. It had these removable tops. But when a car came out of when it came back into service, it was a fixed top on it, and that was it. A president was never going to ride in a convertible again after that.
All right, so let's take it back here. All right, and again, I've never really studied the whole JFK assassination. I'm very ignorant to the subject, so I'm going to ask a lot of questions that have probably already been asked before. So feel free to make fun of me in the chat. But what time did the assassination happen at?
I think it was right around 12:30, wasn't it?
Yeah, somewhere around 12. Yep.
Okay, so the assassination happens, and they take him. He's pretty much, he's dead before. They leave Dealey Plaza. Obviously, there's nothing really left of his head. They get it to the hospital. I've seen pictures, and we had one of the pictures as the thumbnail of them kind of like cleaning the blood up and the mess up with just a rag and buckets. Can you guys take us from what happens to the car from the start of Dealey Plaza till at least where I would say it goes to Essen-Heisenhardt?
Do you want me to take that, Larry, or you want that?
Well, I know a little bit of the Heisner story, but not very much. Everything I heard from Vince Palomalo was, I guess they had a log in the White House garage, and the last person to see the car in that garage was a park ranger. I can't remember his name, but this park ranger also said there was a bullet hole from the front to the back through the front windshield. But anyway, I think that was the last log, and that was Saturday evening, and there's no other entries in the log until Tuesday morning, I believe, was the next time somebody logged in to see that car in the garage, which was after it was supposed to have come back from Detroit. And then the story about the limo company, I don't know too much about that.
All right, Dan.
Yeah, so basically, from what I know of it is, the car, so he's assassinated. They race to Parkland Hospital, take him out of the car. They do the Secret Service start cleaning it up for some unknown reason. I don't know if they were in shock or they just weren't trained or they just didn't understand, but they do start cleaning up, which was, of course, it was a crime scene. You're not supposed to touch anything.
Can you pause 1 second? I just want to hit on something. One of the people in the chat, I can't read my screen from that far. My eyes aren't that good. But one of the people in the chat, Melody Ahmadi, the abandonment of a crime scene or to make a mess of it, and the fact that you guys hit this when we talked about it the first time. Like, it's a crime scene. You're not supposed to touch anything until the investigators come in and take a look at it. The fact that they already started cleaning it right there at the hospital. Why? And you were just about to say, like, well, I don't know, were they freaking out, panicking, or whatnot? But yeah.
Well, see, something else too, guys. Dealey Plaza was never roped off. Dealey Plaza was also a crime scene.
That's true. Too. Yeah, it's a good point. So then the car, after that happens, the car is driven back onto Air Force One. It is flown back to Washington. The official story, And the FBI goes, it's in that's where those photos you see of the back seat where it's kind of bloodied up. I think you had a thumbnail of that on the thing. But those were taken by the FBI. The FBI does its investigation, looks around, looks at the car, takes a bunch of photos. And at that point, nothing happens with the car right away, but an emergency meeting is put together by the Secret Service, by the government officials, CIA, Ford. I think PPG Glass was involved in this, military, and they put together a meeting on. And this is where I don't know how much of this I believe, but they put together the meeting saying, look, it's going to be faster to rebuild this car than start from scratch. It does not make any sense. We need a bulletproof car. We need another car in the fleet for the president, but we don't have time to build one from the ground up. Now, the first car took about 8 months to build from ground up, okay? So this car came back into service about 6 months later. So it wasn't that much of a difference, and it took, I think, $500,000 to rebuild this car. They put a new engine in it. They didn't just put a new top on it and call it a day. I mean, they had to redo the interior. They had to put the top. They completely, a new engine, new transmission, new suspension, everything was redone on this car. So the fact that the initial statement was it's easier to rebuild this, just to rebuild it than start from scratch, is kind of an odd statement because of the amount of money that it cost them to rebuild it and the amount of time that it cost them to rebuild it. That's why I always had a problem with it. It's not like it took them 6 years to build the car. It only took them 8 months to build it, or not even 8 months. I think it was about 6 months to build the original from the ground up. But then after that happens, they make the decision that it's best to rebuild it. And that is when the car is, flown to Cincinnati, Hessen-Eisenhardt. They completely gut the car. They add the car becomes bulletproof. It has bulletproof tires. It gets a more powerful engine. Obviously, they gut the interior completely. I think they might have left the front portion of the interior, like the dash, the seats up front. But obviously, the rear of the car, they had to take all that out. So they just basically gave it a huge upgrade. Then after that, about 7 months later, it goes back to Washington for Johnson. And that's pretty much it. And it was used basically, for it was more or less put to backup duty in the 70s because there were new limousines, newer, more advanced limousines already in service by the 70s. So yeah.
I was gonna say, so what is it once it gets back to DC? How often does he use it versus using it?
Well, like Larry said, Johnson hated using the car. He did not want to be in it. He did not like it. He did use it. There's photos of him in the car. I don't have any estimates. Maybe Larry can or somebody in the chat can say something, but I don't know what the estimates of how much he used it opposed not to using it. But I do know a new limousine came into service right around 66, I think. So I'm assuming by 66, Johnson was certainly using the new car for the remainder of his administration.
Huh. And he didn't use it obviously because he said he felt uncomfortable or he was weirded out by it, but
well, he did say he was uncomfortable in the car.
Yeah.
He made that statement. His wife actually said that he did not like using that car. He did not feel comfortable in the car even after it was, completely
because
rebuilt.
Because of what happened in it, or was he just being
well, I would assume probably because of what happened. Yeah, not saying that he wasn't comfortable because it just wasn't a comfortable car. I'm assuming that he meant he wasn't comfortable because, Johnson, I believe, saw when he walked into the hospital, I believe he got a quick glance of Kennedy Lane in the back of that car. And and there was never any photos or anything taken, obviously, at Parkland Hospital, but from all the eyewitness reports that you hear, I mean, like, Larry said, there was nothing left of his head. His eyes were wide open. He had the death stare, and his head was just completely blown apart. There was nothing there. So it wouldn't be for the squeamish, for sure.
So, is there anything else you know about the car, Larry, other than what Dan's stated and what you guys have talked about?
Well, the problem I have with the limo company story is it's the official story. And usually you can't believe the official story.
So
that was the point of my... Yep.
Right. So what do you think happened?
Well, one more thing about the limo. The videos I've seen of it in that museum, the license plate number is different than when you talked about the film that you saw of the car at Parkland, the license plate number said 300. The one I saw on the video from that museum said 100.
Could it have changed over time? I'm going to look that up right now.
Well, ever since then, I've always wondered if it was a different car or if they just put a different plate on the original assassination car. You never know. You know what I mean?
Right. I'm looking it up right now. But
yeah, and that was...
Go ahead, Dan.
Go ahead. I was going to say that was definitely the point of my original video too. Was just that I still to this day find it hard to believe. I mean, like you said, the official story that it going back to the limo company and being rebuilt. That is the official story. And that was my point of the video, and that was the point of a lot of comments on that video that I saw. People criticizing and persecuting my opinion of it, which is fine. Everyone's entitled to an opinion. However, there are so many conspiracy theories. Nobody believes that Kennedy was shot by Oswald, a lone gunman. Anyone believe they're using the same?
Let's see here. Go ahead, Larry. Sorry about that. We dropped for a second.
Yeah, it dropped. I just asked if you guys were still there.
Oh yeah, no, we're.
Have you heard of Jim Mars?
I've heard the name. Yes.
Crossfire?
Yes.
Well, his book Crossfire is what Oliver Stone used to loosely base his movie off of. But like Jim Mars said, oh yeah, it was a good movie. George Bush Sr. and everybody jumped all over Oliver Stone when that thing came out. But Oliver Stone says right on camera, the movie's not made to be a documentary.
Right.
And he kind of took some liberties with some things,
So it looks here that back in 2015, the license plate was sold on auction. The yellow District of Columbia plate with G300 in black lettering are in excellent condition considering they were more than half a century old. It sold for more than $100,000.
Wow.
Starting bid was $40,000. The price rose to $75,000 on internet bidding before live bidding began. The buyer, who was present for the auction, said by Heritage to be a Kennedy collector who wishes to remain anonymous. Dan, was it you?
Yeah.
Is that why you don't like going to Bamba and eating $5 tacos? You've been buying shit like that.
I spent all that on a license plate. Yep.
Yeah,
you got me.
Wow, somebody wanted to make some money, huh?
Yeah. Right. So yeah, the original license plate Don G300 is what is sold. But
that explains why it's different in the video I saw then.
Yeah, and I'll have to check my photos from when I went down there to see what plate is on it, because you can see a plate on the car right now, but obviously it's not the same one. But yeah, okay.
I don't know if it was a front. I don't know if it had a front plate on it, but both of the ones I saw was on the rear of the car.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll have to take a look at my photos. See, I'm looking it up right now, but
see something else that Jim Mars said. All the evidence that we see is altered. The autopsy photographs are altered. The Zapruder film is altered. Everybody else's photographs are altered. The evidence has been altered. They obfuscated evidence. They altered evidence. They intimidated witnesses, and they eliminated witnesses.
Who's some of the witnesses that they eliminated? Do you know any in particular?
Roger Craig was a Dallas sheriff deputy. He was a Korean War veteran. In 1960, he was the Dallas Deputy of the Year. And on that Men That Killed Kennedy, he explains how that morning the head sheriff, Bill Decker, told them they were in no way to take any part in any security in that motorcade. And they're the sheriffs. You know what I mean?
Right. So you think by him going public with that statement alone poisoned the well enough to have him taken out?
Well, he wasn't taken out for a while, but he explains how he went up to the 6th floor. Well, first he went up on the grassy knoll, and then he ended up on the 6th floor. And when the first rifle they found was not a Mannlicher Carcano. The first rifle they found was a 765 Mauser carbine, which is commonly called the 765 Argentina, because it was only made in a carbine, and it was 7.65 caliber instead of 7.92 caliber, which was the standard Mauser German military issue rifle,
Okay.
But anyway, for 2 days, Walter Cronkite said it was a 7.65 Mauser. The CIA, it was probably the CIA, made Walter Cronkite retract that statement and change it to a 6.5 millimeter Mannlicher Carcano.
Interesting.
And also in Daley Plaza, in the grass, somebody found a spent 7.65 Mauser shell, and it was turned into the FBI, but all that's left of it is an envelope that says 7.65 shell found in Daley Plaza, deemed of no importance and disposed of.
What part though? I mean, that's such a big play. Like, where did they find that in relation to even the book depository?
I believe it was on the grassy knoll in front of that fence.
Okay, so directly in front of the fence within a couple of feet, or more towards the sidewalk?
Probably within a couple of feet, closer
Yeah.
to the fence than the sidewalk.
I've watched a bunch of people, different videos on YouTube where they walk through that whole area. And, I mean, it really is plausible, especially back then with that fence being there. It just makes a lot of sense for something to come from that direction. But again, when you look at the footage and you look at the film, I just don't see it coming from the side. I don't know. Am I wrong?
Well, I think he
it
was
would've-
shot
if
in
it came
the
from
head
the side,
at least twice.
Go for it, Dan.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, yeah, if the shot would have came from the side, depending on what kind of gun, I mean, it would have certainly blown away Jackie, I'm sure, or it would have injured her as well. But, there is theories, what Larry just got done saying, that that he was shot almost simultaneously at the same time in the head, which could explain why his head blew open on the top, but yet why a lot of witnesses said he had a big gaping hole in the back of his head. In the Zapruder film, you don't see the back of his head blow up; you see the top of his head blow off. But yet witnesses, and I think Larry was kind of getting into that when he said the autopsy. They said a lot of that stuff was doctored, but doctors at Parkland Hospital, which would have absolutely no reason to lie, said that he had just a large hole in the back of his head.
Yeah, I'm looking here also at this license plate that you guys have brought up. Yeah, it's definitely a different one. So it's something 27. It's the first digit's blocked off, but it's 27 and then 100. So the 300 license plate, the 100 that you saw in the video is probably an updated one, and the original 300 was the one that was sold in auction. So, but yeah, moving on. Dan, what were you saying?
Oh, well, no. I was just going to say, I do have one thing that there was a story that I was going to do back on Type 3 like a couple years ago, and we just never got around to it because that's when we took our hiatus. But there was something about the JFK thing. I'm going to throw this to Larry, too, and see what he thinks, and whoever's listening in the chat. And I've never heard one person bring this up anywhere. I've never heard all the videos I've looked at, all the books I've read, all of it. I've never seen anybody question this one thing.
Hold on. Before you do that, hold on. Say that again. You said what? You never what?
I never saw anybody. I've never.
All right, go for it. Sorry.
You made me stop for that.
Anyway, I just pissed Buddha off something terrible, I tell you.
I don't know if he's still there.
Yeah, he's there.
Anyway, so I've never seen anybody mention this at all. So, on the day of the assassination, you have the first car in the motorcade is the Dallas chief of police is in that car with, I think, a couple of Secret Service agents. Then a little bit back behind that, you have the JFK's limo. Behind that car, you have the Secret Service follow-up car, which is full of a bunch of Secret Service agents. That's the Cadillac that you see directly behind Kennedy's car during the assassination. Now, about another car length behind that is Lyndon Johnson's car. And it's just a standard Lincoln Continental. It's kind of like a real light blue convertible. It's him, his wife, a Texas senator named Senator Ralph Yarborough. I think I'm saying his name right. A Secret Service agent by the name of Rufus Youngblood, and a driver, driving that car. Now, and this is kind of, Larry really made me think of it when he said, that somebody could have been bought off there in the Dallas Police Department or somebody in Dallas or Texas. So one of the most bizarre things that I always questioned, and I've never seen anybody question this, whenever a president or a vice president is driven around, it's always by a Secret Service agent. They never let anybody drive a president or vice president around. It's been that way for at least 50 years. I can't imagine that it would have been any different in 1963. However, Lyndon Johnson was not being driven around by a Secret Service agent. He was driven around by a Texas highway patrolman by the name of Herschel Jacks. And you can see him. If you look at photos of Johnson's car that day, he's wearing a cowboy hat. He's got a suit on, but he's got a cowboy hat on. So in itself, kind of strange. I always question, why would they not give Johnson a Secret Service agent instead of, why would they not put a Secret Service agent behind the wheel of the car and instead put just a Texas highway patrolman? But I didn't really think a whole lot of it until I was doing some other research and I was looking at photos of Oswald. When he got shot in the basement of the jail there, they've got photos of him on the stretcher, getting put into the ambulance, laying there. And off in the distance, right in the crowd of all these people, I see this exact same gentleman. Okay, it's the same guy. He's got a very distinctive look on his face, or distinctive look, this Herschel Jacks guy. Now, of course, in this case, he's in his uniform. He's got his uniform on. Now and again, you're thinking to yourself, well, big deal. He's a Texas, lawman. He's a Texas Highway Patrol. Of course, he's in the Dallas jail. It's not that big of a deal. But right now, two things happen. You have a guy that is located in both events. I don't know of anybody that was in the motorcade that was also at the scene of where Oswald got killed. Okay, this guy is in both places. Now, of course, I'm not saying he didn't kill Kennedy. He didn't kill Oswald, and I'm not even saying that at all. I'm saying that is a very strange coincidence. And then I started thinking about why would, and this is of course just speculation. I'm just pulling this out of my ass. I didn't read this anywhere. I've never heard it, but just using a little logic. Why would they put a highway patrolman from Texas behind the wheel of that car? If they knew, and I don't even subscribe to the theory that Johnson was behind it. I think Johnson had nothing to do with it. I do think, though, the government had something to do with it, like Larry thinks. And I think they knew it that day. And I think the idea was, and I don't know what part this Herschel Jacks would have played in it. From everything I heard, he was a nice guy. He was a family man, blah, blah, blah. But if the government wants you to do something, or if they threaten your family, which I'm not saying they did, I'm just speculating, you'll do what you got to do. Would it be, unlike today where you've got Google Satellite, you can look at and you can scout locations for days at a time, you can see buildings. The Secret Service didn't have that back then. One agent would go out, scout the locations, and then they would just go ahead and route the motorcade and put the motorcade through. But if you've got somebody that knows, because these Secret Service agents don't know these cities, they're going through thousands of cities a day. They can't keep track of this crap. They just follow the lead car, and they just follow all the cars, and they just go to their destination. That's how it works, at least back then. So the question is, well, what does this guy have to do with it? Well, would it make sense if the gentleman knew? He obviously knows where this Texas School Depository is. He knows Dealey Plaza. A lot of those agents would not know that, or even if you would tell them several times, they might not remember it or get confused. If it's predetermined where shots are going to be fired. And also, you notice that Johnson's car in the videos, you notice his car stays way back from Kennedy's car. I mean, way back from the Secret Service car, even. And it's very strange, and it makes me think that he might have known something. He might have known something was going to happen. And what better way than to give a person that knows the layout of the city, which I'm sure, again, a Texas patrolman would know, the layout of Dallas, opposed to just some Secret Service agent that's never maybe been there before, where exactly these shots are going to ring out. And that way you protect the vice president who's going to become the president. You don't want him at all getting shot. You don't want anything happening to him. So you make sure you keep the car furthest away from the sitting duck. And of course, this case, the sitting duck was JFK. Another thing, too, is Rufus Youngblood. And this is verified. This is not just me speculating. This is quite verified. He acted better than any Secret Service agent that day acted. He actually, when the shots rang out, he literally leaped over the passenger seat and jumped on top of Lyndon Johnson, pushing him to the floor when these shots rang out. And you see how JFK's agents reacted that day. I mean, the one jumped on the car to help push Jackie and Clint Hill, but that was obviously after the fact. Kennedy was already blown away, and that was the end of it. I think there's something there. I don't know for sure, but I always wondered how that guy, I've never heard of a link between that Herschel Jacks being located or anybody being located at the scene where Kennedy was killed and the scene where Oswald was killed. 2 days later, right? It happened 2 days later. And here you've got a highway patrolman that is in both locations. Again, like I said, I'm not saying of course he didn't kill anybody himself, but he could have helped Ruby get in there. He could have, did something to help Ruby get away with what he did by shooting Oswald. And that's a theory that I was going to talk about a couple of years ago, and I never got around to it. What's your thought on that, Larry? Or anybody on the chat room?
Well, yeah, he was out there in the sitting duck position, and that's another one of the ways that Vince Palomalo explains that the Secret Service broke basically every one of their protocols. The presidential limo should have been towards the center of the motorcade, maybe have the pilot car like you said, and then there'd be a truck hauling a bunch of press people so they could take pictures, of the front of the limousine and everything. And then, have the presidential limo, towards the center of the motorcade. But they put him right out there in the sitting duck position. And you mentioned that Texas Senator Yarborough.
Yeah.
He was supposed to be in the limousine with Kennedy instead of Connally.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And if you watch the Zapruder film, you can see Governor Connolly's holding up his white Stetson hat, and it almost seems like he's trying to signal the shooters, "This is Connally, don't shoot me." But I guess Yarborough and Johnson hated each other, but Kennedy wanted Connally in his limousine because he said he was the chief executive of the state of Texas, and he could ride with the chief executive of the country, or he could walk. So Connally had to get in there.
Yeah, I did not know that.
That's something else. Jim Mars explains that. But Jim Mars, he was from Texas too. He also taught a course at the University of Texas on the JFK assassination for 30 years.
Gotcha.
And,
There was a whole
let me
class
ask you-
dedicated to that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he was a professor at the University of Texas.
What are your thoughts on what Dan mentioned though, where that guy is at both places? Do you think that there's any?
There's a lot of little nuances like that. See, also that day in Daley Plaza, there was a guy named Conine. He was a CIA assassin. They got pictures of him along Houston Street. There's the guy from Georgia that they got. They arrested him and let him go the week before. He was saying that they were going to kill Kennedy in Florida from a building with a high-powered rifle. And like you were talking about when they lay out the parade routes.
Yeah.
Like I told you before about Prouty went to Mexico City. They laid out the parade route. They checked out where the windows was. And like he said, there was no Secret Service protection in Daley Plaza that day. The only Secret Service people were riding in the motorcade. And Colonel Prouty, he lays out photographs from that day of Daley Plaza. He says, you see all these open windows and all these buildings? If there would have been any Secret Service protection in the area that day, they'd have been on the radio, they'd have had a man up there, and that window would have been closed.
Yeah.
So that's protection.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen in Dallas. And if you watch the week before in Florida, they had started pulling the Secret Service protection back. The official story is Kennedy didn't want the Secret Service people on the back of the limo. Kennedy never said that. He didn't care if they were there or not. It's just stuff that they make up,
Buddha, what are your thoughts on some of this stuff?
To be honest, I never really looked into it because it's just like beating a dead horse. You're just never, ever going to know. And speculating about it will just drive me fucking insane.
But see, they made it that way on purpose so that we would drive ourselves insane.
Yeah.
No, and that's a fair point. I just look at it like the government killed him. Time to move on. He's one of fucking many people the government has killed.
Yeah.
I mean, half the people the government killed, they put in power in the first place.
Interesting point. So kind of tying, leaving the JFK subject, how, and I've heard this before, and maybe Larry, you can speak to this. How is JFK and that whole assassination tied in to 9/11? How are they bridged together?
I'd have to say because the government did both of them.
Okay, yeah, because I've heard things where like, and have you ever watched Loose Change?
I watched the first one. I probably should rewatch it again.
Yeah.
And I heard there was a part 2 coming out, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I'd like to interview that guy too, but they talk about JFK and the what was the operation? Was it Northwoods, where they were trying to make it look like there was an attack on America to basically rally the country to go to war with Cuba?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And the shocking thing is the Joint Chiefs of Staff approved that operation.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they actually leaked those documents.
I'm trying to figure out. Are you opening up a case of beer?
Who?
I don't know. Somebody sounds like they're looking for like.
Not me.
Oh, that was my
Not me.
girlfriend.
You guys drinking or what?
No, she was getting silverware out of the drawer next to me.
Oh, right on. Yeah, no. So, but yeah, like, they're not necessarily linked directly, but there are a lot of similarities where things happen. And one of the biggest things for me about 9/11 is Building 7. How is a building that is hit by, or not hit by any plane, not, there's no real, they say that there was office fires, but like, how does a building like that fall out of nowhere several hours later? It just all looks too, what's the right word? It looks like a normal demolition.
It was.
But why? What was there to cause?
Well, that Larry Silverstein, the guy that purchased the World Trade Center like 2 or 3 months before 9/11,
right?
He says right on camera, "We pulled it."
Pulled it. Yeah.
Well, that's industry jargon for it was
Demolished. Yeah.
demolished. Yeah.
But what was there that would cause them to want to destroy that building as well?
I've heard that there was documents and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But I don't have any way to confirm that,
Yeah.
But see, another thing too, if Larry Silverstein's on camera saying we pulled it, that means that building was pre-wired.
Yeah.
Because there's no way they could have done all that stuff in a couple hours.
Well, and they say that for months leading up to 9/11, there was always a crew of people going in
At night.
At night to do routine cleaning or maintenance on the building, but realistically they were
loading the thermite in there.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that a lot of these architects and engineers for truth are saying is that it's not fire that melted these steel beams. It's a thermite reaction on a chemical level that basically incinerated and melted these beams. If you watch the floors fall, they're falling on top of each other, and some of these floors are falling out or exploding, seconds before the ones underneath them. Like it's not happening all at once. Like you're watching a floor pop out, in sequential order, similar to how a building's demolished,
We'll see something else too. The thermite. There's the nanotechnology version of thermite, which they call thermate, and Jim Mars said that's what they used on those towers was thermate, the nano version.
Oh, just with how big the particles are.
Yeah. And well, see, that's another thing. when those buildings came down, they should have left a pile of rubble that was at least 10 stories tall.
Right. I mean, how tall really was it? I mean,
it was pretty much ground level.
Yeah, aside from the stuff at the near the base of it, but yeah, the amount of dust and debris, like you said, it was no bigger than like they say a telephone keypad, most of it. So,
have you guys ever heard of a Dr. Judith Wood?
No.
She does videos about. You've heard of directed energy weapons?
No. Let's hear a little about it.
Well, it'd be like Tesla's death ray, or an accelerated particle beam.
What about sound wave type weaponry? Have you heard of that?
That could be too.
Right.
But anyway, they call them directed energy weapons. She thinks they use that, and one of the reasons I believe this lady is because, have you seen any pictures of Building 6?
No.
The whole center is cored out like an apple when you take one of those apple coring tools and core out the apple. The only thing left of Building 6 is the 4 outside walls.
I'm bringing it up right now, and this is on 9/11.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
How does 2 jet planes hitting 2 towers do that?
Oh no, yeah, you're right. It's just the center mass looks like a hole.
Yeah, it looks like a cored out apple.
Yeah, interesting.
How do jetliners do that?
Right.
What kind of technology is that?
Comment in the chat. A comment in the chat says, "But guys, seriously, the buildings could have not fallen, or could have not come down without the planes. I mean, would it not have been easier to fake another car bombing like they done in the 90s, or like Oklahoma?"
That's a great point.
That's another thing. Those 2 towers are the only 2 steel frame buildings in the history of the world
Yep.
to come down.
Right. Yeah, and they were designed to withstand an impact, and I know it was a 707, not a 737, but still, like, I mean, I just don't know if
I actually looked that up last time we talked about that. I think it said with a 707 being smaller, it actually generates more force than the ones that hit the towers.
Oh, okay. Yeah, Camo is quoting a lot of Larry Silverstein quotes here. He's saying, "We suffered such great loss already. Let's pull it." And so, but yeah, I mean,
Well, see that Larry Silverstein, when he purchased those, when he purchased that World Trade Center, he's supposed to have made a down payment of $625 million. When those 2 towers came down, he tried to claim double indemnity. And get double payment, which I think would have been like $4.2 billion. But he ended up getting like $3.4 billion out of a $625 million investment.
yeah, they're saying, so World Trade Center 1 was 110 stories, 2 was 110 stories, 3 was 22 stories, 4 was 9 stories. But I mean, yeah, just the fact that, like I said, the 2 buildings in the history of the world that fall due to fire.
Well, there was one in Spain that was supposed to burn for like a week, and it didn't fall.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think jet fuel burns hot enough to, and I mean,
no.
But that's the other thing too is that, okay, they say the jet fuel caused it to burn and collapse. Wouldn't that have all detonated or exploded on impact?
It would have detonated on impact and would have been gone very, very soon after impact.
Yeah. An office fire is not going to cause that.
No, jet fuel only burns around. The experts say that jet fuel burns around 1,800 degrees.
Right, and to melt steel is what, 3,200
close
degrees?
to 3,000.
Yeah,
right around 3,000. Plus, it was structural steel. It wasn't just plain steel,
Right, and that's. Go ahead.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just real quick, and this is something that I've always wondered about. I'm no expert, I'm no engineer or anything like that. But there's one thing that I always, to go against the conspiracy theory of something bringing these buildings down other than the planes. And I'm kind of in the middle of the road on that whole thing. I strongly believe in a JFK conspiracy opposed to 9/11. I'm a little on the, but here's the thing though. What does a fully loaded, what do you say, the 747? Was that what it is?
It was, let's say 37, I think.
Well, okay, whatever plane that is. What does that plane weigh with a bunch of with 200 or whatever, 180 passengers on it? What do you think the weight of that plane is? And if a plane crashes, all that, that plane, I don't know, maybe 100,000 pounds. I don't know. I mean, someone can look that up. I don't know what it weighs, but whatever that thing weighs, with the fire, the structural engineering of the building would have still been screwed up. I don't care if a fire caused it or not. It would have still been messed up to where it would have compromised the structural engineering of the buildings. And then you have this giant, heavy, extremely heavy plane laying on top of it, fully loaded with passengers. I mean, could that not? I mean, I know that their buildings are meant to.
They were not 737s. So what hit the North Tower was a 767. What hit the South Tower was a 767.
Okay.
What crashed in the wall of the Pentagon was a 757, and what crashed in Pennsylvania was a 757 as well. A 767. I'm looking here at the weight right now.
Well, see, that's another thing. The jetliner that was supposed to have hit the Pentagon, there's only like a 15-foot diameter hole in the Pentagon. How do you fit a big jetliner through that little hole?
Yeah, and not to mention, think about all the plane crashes that we've seen throughout the last, 50 years, right? Most of that stuff is still relatively big in nature. Like, I mean, the fact that we haven't in Pennsylvania, there wasn't a piece bigger than, they say, like the keypad of a telephone. The fact that, like, the Pentagon has a 15-foot diameter hole in there. Where's the wings? Where are all the things? Like, you can't tell me that the wings just disintegrated on impact. I mean,
where's the titanium blades from the jet engines?
Right. The fact that, like, these planes just, disappeared. That's another thing that's just so strange about it. And I'm not necessarily saying, I don't know what happened on that day, but just the official story to its complete just does not sit well, and it never really has with me. And so I'm just opening up dialogue to just point out all the shit that goes, this just doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the right answer is.
I was on vacation with my dad and my uncle. We left here and we just got in Missouri that morning down in the Ozarks. Right. And we're sitting in a motel room watching it on TV. I'm seeing the Twin Towers, and I'm like, man, that's fucked up, And then they showed the video of the Pentagon, and it looked like this 757 was sliding across the grass, and it looked fake.
Yeah, do you remember seeing a video of the plane, like, relatively pretty close to the Pentagon? I remember seeing them broadcast a video of it, and to this day, I can't find it. I swear I remember seeing something from D.C.
Yeah, because all they show now is just that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, all they show now is just that grainy looking, like it's like a step by step, like it's not a full normal video. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, but the frame with the plane in it's not there. You just get
an explosion.
Yeah, it's like
it's
like
weird.
No explosion, black cloud.
Right. I know what you're talking about there. Yeah, that is a little strange.
That's right. I remember that now.
But, like, I do remember seeing a plane, even just a video of, like, a plane low in D.C. disappearing. I remember seeing that. And I don't know if it's a Mandela effect thing or whatnot, but does anybody remember seeing a plane or a video of a plane hitting the Pentagon or flying in D.C. before hitting the Pentagon? I remember seeing one.
I did the morning of September 11th.
That's what I'm saying. I did too, yeah. And that's... I'm glad that you say that, because for years I've, like, question my sanity in regards to that because I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not out there, but I know I saw it.
And then I never really thought about it again until I was watching videos and they showed the side of the Pentagon with that small hole in it. And I'm thinking, how does a jetliner fit through that hole? You know?
And one thing, too, that you guys bring up, though, this is, now that you mention it, you would think for sure around the Pentagon, in that area that they wouldn't just have one lousy camera. Even back then, you'd think that there would be tons and tons of camera views.
Yeah. We're talking
that.
about the central neural center of our entire military.
Right. That's a little strange, that I will admit.
All over. They should have had that from at least 20 different angles.
Yep, I agree with that.
And if it is what they say it is, then they do have that. But again, we're not seeing any of that. And I think
they have it. They're just not showing it to us.
Right.
Yeah. Buddha, what are some of your thoughts around the weird things around 9/11? I mean, have you ever looked at something and questioned it, or?
I mean, I've looked into about as much as what you guys are touching on. Like, do I think that is all bullshit? Absolutely, but I can't get into like scientific specifics of why this failed anywhere beyond what you guys have already talked about.
No, but I'm saying, like, what are some of the things that have made you question, like, the validity of what's going on? Like, is there something that maybe we missed that you're like, oh, that's interesting, I never really thought of that?
Well, I mean, if you factor in or factor out everything you guys have already talked about and take it from a different approach, it's kind of the whole false flag, never let a crisis go to waste kind of thing. Because what happened after they did that? The TSA, the Patriot Act gets started. Like, hey, we're going to war, except we're not actually going to declare war on anyone. We're going to declare war on terror, which means there's no actual target, which means the war never actually ends, which means we just continuously bomb the Middle East for the next 20 years under the guise of that we are training people over there. And then 20 years later, when we realized that we weren't actually training anyone and the epic collapse of what happens over there, it turns out, oh, wait, so the U.S. was actually over there guarding poppy fields while we're paying more and more money to all these arms manufacturers and everyone that's lobbying with them and has investments in shit like Raytheon and, all of that kind of stuff, like, has just made a fuck ton of money while they sent all your children to die and sat at home and just stuffed their pockets.
Right. Fuck. All right. Well, thanks, Buddha.
I'm here for those little tidbits.
Yeah.
But
Nice.
with all that being said, how much of that has gone away? Nothing.
None of it.
And all of the people now that are being born, not being born, but have been born since then, are now old enough to go to Iraq and Afghanistan and wherever the fuck else they want to send them, Libya and Syria and all that shit. They're going to a war zone that started before they were alive, and they don't even know why they're there except for the fact that we need to fight for freedom. But there has never been a threat to our freedom greater than the fucking American government.
Oh,
it's
dude.
not coming from the fucking Middle East. I mean, if you even want to take it on another fucking route, like, Osama bin Laden was a U.S. asset. And this is what I said earlier about, like, funding the people that we are then going to force a regime change or, basically remove from power once we get our use out of them. Did you know that when Osama bin Laden actually declared war against the U.S., in his declaration, it pretty much just said that the U.S. shouldn't be on their holy lands, or they shouldn't be building, whether, I don't remember if it was people on their holy lands or if it was their, bases on their holy lands. That was the reason for, his declaration of war. And all anybody ever says, all the fucking warmongers, the fucking warhawks in Congress and shit, they just say, oh, they hate us because we're free. They hate us for our freedoms. No, they hate us because you motherfuckers go there and you drop fucking bombs like it's your goddamn job while you send your kids there to kill their kids. Like, That's like the fucking CIA created ISIS. And then the whole thing is that we need to go get rid of ISIS. But then to take it another step further, and I'm going to fuck this one up because I don't remember whichever fucking side it was something like whoever the fuck, sorry, bear with me. There's a whole lot going on over there. If anyone is interested in learning a shit ton more, you should listen to Scott Horton. That guy is a fucking wealth of information. But basically, it was like we're fighting against the Taliban, and the Taliban's fuck. Hang on, I'm gonna fuck this up. I don't remember how it went, but basically, what it was is our enemy is the Taliban, and in the end of it, they ended up fighting on the side of the Taliban against whoever the fuck it was. I don't remember. I don't have specifics, but yes, it's all about taking away more freedoms from America, because the whole point, so to come back full circle, the whole point I was making is, so all of these kids that are now old enough to go overseas and, you know, deal with whatever you want to call the war on terror, even though, hang on. Sorry, I was looking at the chat. So
Yeah.
now that they're, yeah, I know. So now that they're over, wasn't it Hoover? Wasn't that Hoover's thing that created the CIA?
No, he was FBI, wasn't he?
FBI.
Truman.
But
It was the National
wasn't he
Security
also
Act
this?
of 1947.
Yeah, wasn't he also the same guy that used to dress up in women's clothes and he was like banging one of his assistants or something?
Well, there
Yeah.
was
He was rumored to be
President
gay.
Hoover. There was two Hoovers. There was President Herbert Hoover during the Depression, and then J. Edgar Hoover that ran the FBI until 72.
Yeah. But
J. Edgar Hoover was supposed to have been gay.
Right. Yep. He.
Let me finish that. Hold on, let me finish that thought because I was trying to bring it back full circle.
Okay.
So just the cliff notes, by doing all of the things that went on and perpetuated through 9/11 and then forcing in like, you know, the Patriot Act and the TSA and all that bullshit, and then say it goes on for 20 years and now those kids are then sent off to the same country that, you know, possibly their fathers were sent to. They're fighting for something that not only happened before they were alive, but it's ingrained and indoctrinated that this is the way it is because it always has been. Like, that's what I tried to explain, you know, multiple times, where it's like, there's no reason to question it because for their entire life, the Patriot Act has always been around. For their entire life, the whole surveillance state has always been around.
No, and that's
like,
exactly what I was going to bring up. Like, I know, like, I worked with a kid that literally was born in like 2002 and doesn't know what it's like to get on an airplane. Like, we used to be able to go and greet people at the fucking gate when they were coming off an airplane. Or you'd be able to go and, like, if your family member was going away on an airplane, you could go and sit with them at the gate. Like, they couldn't understand that. And I was like, no, that was a thing that you used to be able to do. If we had relatives that were coming in from out of town, you could go and greet them at the gate. Like, you didn't have to go through security. You didn't have to spend 45 minutes waiting for someone to pat you down. Or like when I was coming through Los Angeles back in February, like, a 90-year-old woman had to get up out of a wheelchair to go through the fucking x-ray machine. Like, this is ridiculous. This woman, like, she's almost 100 years old. She's no threat. Yet they have to, like, hold on, ma'am. Okay, put your arms up. The woman could barely friggin' stand. And it's shocking to me. Like, I'm getting to the age now where, like, those things that we grew up with are never coming back, and we'll continuously be giving up things, and they're just small little things, just little tiny bits at a time. Okay, so we took away this privilege. Oh, the Freedom of Information Act. I'm sorry, not the Patriot Act. Things like that slowly creep in to your life that you don't necessarily fully realize are there until it's too late. And like, it's astonishing, like, to think that there are people now that are adults that never had that opportunity to see the life before that. I don't know.
No, that's the point, is that if you keep it going for so long, it just becomes the norm. And then everyone's child after that is born into it being the norm.
Dude, I'm still seeing motherfuckers on TV, like in live events, wearing masks. Like, it's crazy to me.
There's people, the store where I work, there's people that come in there with masks. Young people, old people. And I'm just thinking, oh my God, what are you doing?
I mean, I was listening to, what was it? You're All Disease by Carlin. And he talks about like the immune system. And yes, it's tongue in cheek and it's funny. It's supposed to be funny. It's comedy. But he's got a good point there. Like, we're allowing ourselves to not even build up an immune system anymore. Like, we're trying to even stifle that so that we're vulnerable to even just illnesses that we could easily beat are going to be harder to beat because we're just watering ourselves down. I don't know. It's crazy to me, some of the shit that we're seeing happen.
That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to kill our immune system.
And I think the reason why I was so interested to bring you on tonight and kind of talk about these two things is, like, for me, I feel like, and I don't know if you guys would agree, but like, I think JFK is really where America really started to die. Like,
yeah. Right after World War II, look at America before World War II and then after World War II.
Just like, yes. And so the American dream, the culture, and there was a lot of things that were not really great about the country back then. You know, segregation was still it was a bad thing that was happening. And I'm not saying that part of history was like innocent by any means, but I really feel like the death of JFK really started the ball rolling as far as like the American freedom and the American dream. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to shut the fuck up.
Yeah. It's more like it.
I was going to say, I agree. I've been watching plenty of like JFK, people talking about it, experts and everything, and that, most everybody agrees on the fact that regardless of what stance you have on who did it, why they did it, whatever, everyone seems to agree that the country really, things took a dive after he got killed. The country really lost a lot of its innocence when he was murdered. And I mean, that led into the 60s. You look at the way the 60s started, 1960, to the way it ended, it doesn't look like it was 10 years difference. It looks like it was a 50-year difference. You had the, people dressed in suits and ties with fedoras walking around, and everybody listening to like, the doo-wop type music. It ends the end of the decade, Woodstock, with people with the long beards and just smoking weed. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just smoking weed and just, against the government, against everything. Obviously, the Vietnam War was.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
They call it counterculture.
Yeah.
Yeah. It changed so much. I mean, the 60s was like, I wasn't alive in the 60s, but I mean, you look at the way it started to the way it ended, it's like, what a difference.
Yeah. And I'm not to say like, I'm not a big JFK guy. Like, I don't really particularly care for JFK as a politician. And I'm not even so sure like about like, I don't know if it was the right decision to drop even the nuclear bombs on Japan. Like, such a use of force that we knew nothing about.
Well, hold on. I can't confirm this, but I had heard things that the emperor was actually ready to
surrender.
Yeah, he was actually ready to surrender, and he had like one of the terms of his surrender was that he would still be able to be emperor, but as like a figurehead. And they basically told him no, and then they dropped the fucking bombs anyway. Or it was something fucking dumb, but pretty much it was that it wasn't really necessary because he was going to surrender anyway. And then they just said, well, fuck you, and did it. I don't know. I can't confirm that, but that's some of the shit that I've read before.
Well, we actually could have surrounded the whole main islands of Japan with our navy and starved them out. like Colonel Prouty said, when he was in Tokyo at the end of World War II, he said it was flat. It was dead flat. You can see a trolley car 6 blocks away, you know.
Right.
It was so flat. We'd already pretty much destroyed them. And then the second bomb in Nagasaki, they say that was dropped on a Catholic church on purpose. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what some of the experts say.
Yeah.
And see, another thing, where did we get the fissionable material to make those bombs?
You're asking the wrong dude. I don't know.
Well, see, there's another guy named Harry Cooper. He has a site called sharkhunters.com that you can, join. But he gets into the German submarines and how Hitler and all the top Nazis escaped out of Germany and all this. But see, America, when we did that test in July of 45, the Trinity test, we wasn't scheduled to have enough fissionable material to even make another bomb until November of 1945. And then all of a sudden, right after that, we dropped 2 bombs on Japan. And see, another thing I never knew for a long time either, we dropped 2 different types of bombs on Japan.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I knew the Fat Man and the Little Boy, but I never really looked into the difference between the two.
The first one on Hiroshima was a plain uranium bomb.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Bomb. Yeah, that's right.
And then the one we dropped on Nagasaki was a plutonium bomb.
Are you telling me that this sucker is nuclear? It's Back to the Future reference, sorry.
I guess the plutonium bomb was supposed to be a lot more powerful, I guess. From what they say.
Oh, man.
And,
yeah,
To me, they were just experimenting, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think they'd never dropped them on anybody, and they just wanted to see what they would do.
Not to go down an entirely different tangent, and I know we're coming close to wrap up time here, but there was one thing also about the United States and the spike in UFO activity around the nuclear program, and realistically, like, the reason we saw more and more UFOs and potential extraterrestrial surveillance was due to our newly acquired use of, or newly acquired understanding of atomic energy. So,
yeah.
The Vermonster, Richards, I don't know where the hell we're going with all of this. We're just talking. That's it. That's what we're doing.
We'll see when Roswell happened in 1947, that's where that 509th Bomb Group was. At that time, they were the only atomic bomb wing in the world.
Right.
And there's a lot of people that say they weren't aliens, they were Nazis, and they were up here, doing surveillance and checking out what we had.
What was the one thing called the bell, the German?
The Nazi bell.
Yeah, we were talking about that last week too, weren't we?
In German, it's Die Glocke.
Yes.
And there's a guy, Joseph P. Farrell, who is an expert on that.
Right.
It was supposed to be like red mercury and some kind of serum, and it was counter-rotating cylinders. Have you ever heard of the Kecksburg incident in 1965?
Yeah.
What crashed there was instantly picked up by the military and taken to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and it's pretty much
Hangar
the same
10.
description. It's pretty much the same description as that Nazi bell.
Right. Yeah, I'm actually going there at the end of this month, I think. Right, Pat, actually.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
There's a big convention, like a ham radio, but it's also a giant electronics flea market. So, but it's right near Wright-Patterson, and so it's a cool museum. Buddha and I went once. They got a stealth bomber there. It was pretty cool. Thank you, honey. But I think they just opened up a new NASA wing there as well.
I missed that. What state is that in? I missed what you said.
Wright-Patterson?
Yeah.
It's down in Dayton.
That's
okay.
in Ohio.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But Ohio's next to Pennsylvania, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not I think within 10 hours, Kecksburg. I'm not sure. if it's on the eastern part of Pennsylvania or not.
So it would have been real easy for the military to show up and scoop that thing up and get it out of there real quick.
Well, that's where they also supposedly took all the Roswell wreckage too. Was put on a train and shipped out to a hangar 10 out in Wright Pat as well. So
Yeah.
No.
But I think that was a little later, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, I don't know the exact chronological order of the two,
I
but
can't remember for sure.
so
But we'll see. That's another thing that kind of ties in. Have you guys researched Byrd, Admiral Byrd, that did Operation High Jump down in Antarctica?
no.
That was, I believe, it was in 46 or 47. But you've heard the stories of the Nazi secret base in Antarctica.
No. Did they find a transformer there? Is that why they made the movie? I'm joking.
I don't know.
No,
But
that's where they supposedly found Megatron was in Antarctica. Yeah.
But see that Admiral Byrd, on the way back, he took 5,000 Marines and they got defeated. They got their asses kicked by something.
Well, let's do it next time on the season finale, because we're closing in on.
So you guys are going to be on next week?
Yeah. Well,
right on.
Last one for the next couple months, I would say. We're ending on a high note. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I still got a lot of stuff written down about JFK.
Well, all right. Well, you want to do a little bit next week?
Yeah.
Buddha, you cool with it? Dan, you cool with it?
Yeah, I'm good.
I could debate. I can talk about JFK all day long. So the assassination.
I'm down.
Yep.
You think him and Marilyn were a thing, or is that you think that's bullshit?
It might have been him and Bobby in Maryland.
Oh.
Yeah.
The night that Marilyn Monroe died,
Yeah.
Bobby Kennedy was supposed to have been in Los Angeles.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely Maryland for sure. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
And that would lend why the part of the reason that the mafia was probably at least partially involved in JFK's assassination. I personally think the CIA and the mafia co-conspired actually to do it to get rid of him.
Yeah.
But earlier I was talking about that sheriff deputy Robert Craig. They tried to kill him 2 or 3 times, and then on his death certificate it says he died from suicide from a rifle wound to the chest.
Just like, I mean, when I hear things like that, it always reminds me of Kurt Cobain, because it's like, how was he able to pull the trigger on the gun?
Dude,
Who shoots himself in the chest?
Well, that's what I'm saying. They said
there's a channel on YouTube called American Spy Fox. It's a guy, I think he just turned 40. And actually he's in Ohio like you guys. But he's really into Kurt Cobain and Nirvana and Kurt Cobain's death and everything.
Have you ever talked to him?
I've never talked to him personally. I've just watched his videos. But you might check out his channel. He's got some good stuff on there about Kurt Cobain. There is a detective, Tom Grant, that Courtney Love had hired, and then he got into it with her, and he started doing his own independent investigation.
Yeah, no, I looked at reaching out to him for an interview. I think he charges per interview. So, but yeah,
the American Spy, Charles is his name.
I'm talking about the PI that Courtney Love hired. The detective. I forget what his name is.
Tom Grant.
Tom Grant. That's right. Yeah.
He kind of went off the rails a little bit on the crazy train, I think.
Yeah. Did you ever watch that documentary he did, Soaked in Bleach?
I've seen part of it.
Yeah,
I haven't seen the whole thing.
It was pretty good. But all right, well, Larry, hang out after we go off for a second. We're gonna sign off here in a minute.
Okay. Hang out on this clean feed.
Yeah, you can just hang out here for a little bit.
Right on.
We talk for a few minutes after the show, but shutting it down for the night. But yeah, Buddha, Dan, you got anything to add?
I think I'm good.
No, I think we're good.
You firing me, Buddha?
Oh, you and your fucking sound effects.
Yeah, I'm fired again. All Well, yeah, we'll do this one more time next week for the season finale, and we'll take some time off. Look at that. We're going out on a high note. Unbelievable.
Right on.
Yeah. Look at it. And Larry, thank you for just coming and doing this. It was really cool, and and the three of us really do appreciate just coming every week and being a part of the show and just spreading the word. Honestly, it means a lot that you've stuck around this long. So, and it was kind of cool to have you a part of this. So, thanks again. Well, for Dan Rady, Stephen Gibson, this is John Mazinski from the Mistake on the Lake, deep within the Great American Rust Belt, somewhere out there. To all that tuned in tonight, thanks again. We'll see you on the next one. Buddha, say goodnight to Larry.
God, that is the weakest fucking sign off ever, John.
What do you want me to do? All right, hold on. Let's redo it. I gotta go back to this thing. All right.
I'll see what you did, Buddha. Now he's got to redo it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna redo it now.
He took my shoelace and he told me I couldn't read good.
I'm trying to think of what I want to say. Come on. Now I'm gonna play the shitting sound effect.
I thought that's what you've been doing
don't.
this whole time.
No, I'm not. I won't cause the audience to have to listen to that. It's pretty gross. It's funny, but gross. So.
A couple of them would probably like it.
Just shitting into a toilet. All right. Well, for Dan Rady, Stephen Gibson, Lawrence of The Simpson, out in the Great American West. From the Mistake on the Lake, deep within the Great American Rust Belt, this is Type 3 TV. Somewhere out there. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Buddha, say goodnight to Larry.
Good night to Larry.
Good night, Buddha.